The first day of NASCAR action has come and gone, and, well, let's be honest, it was a very weird day, a different day, kind of interesting day. But so the first thing on the table was qualifying here today on Sunday, which is probably the more exciting event that happened here today, and so the whole weekend has been in jeopardy of getting rained out. Somehow they got the ARCA race in on Saturday, and then here today it looked like it was going to be kind of bad and that they might not get qualifying in, but the Clash is looking pretty good. It actually turned out that they got the full qualifying in without any major issues. There were a few sprinkles at times in the second round of qualifying, but otherwise it was good to go. And at the end of the first round of qualifying, we all knew it was going to be a Hendrick Motorsports battle for the front row in qualifying, as it was Alex Bowman who claimed first, William Byron in second, Chase Elliott third, and Jimmy Johnson fourth. When going out, when it got to those four, Jimmy laid down a really, really fast lap. He picked up a ton on his second lap out, and then Chase Elliott followed, could not top the 48, and Jimmy stayed on top for the meantime until William Byron went out and topped the 48th lap time. Alex Bowman came out, ran with the 24 in terms of speed-wise for most of that lap, but in the final, I would say half a lap, final quarter of a lap, Bowman fell off, and it's William Byron on his first ever Monster Energy Cup Series pole here in the Daytona 500, and Hendrick Motorsports has swept the first four positions in for now for the Daytona 500 until we get to the duels, where that will probably change. But so Hendrick Motorsports has William Byron on the pole with Alex Bowman, who's outside second. That is right now staying as long as they don't crash in the duels, with Jimmy Johnson now third, and fourth will be Chase Elliott. So it's kind of big that William Byron ended up winning the race, because all the talk has been about Chad Knaus moving from Jimmy Johnson to William Byron and all this, and kind of Chad Knaus paving the way for the future of William Byron. And he started out perfectly by winning the pole with Byron for the Daytona 500, just like he did with Jimmy Johnson. He got Johnson's first career pole in the 2002 Daytona 500. So he's done a lot with drivers, that is for sure. And how will he do with Byron this year? I think, in my opinion, I think Byron will get his first career Cup win this season with Chad Knaus, but only time will tell if that actually happens. So that was actually pretty cool just to see. Hendrick Motorsports brought some speed, and they backed it up with a good duel, or a good clash, I guess you could say. So the clash started, and they quickly got single file. And, that's kind of the thing we've seen with the Clash in the previous few years. They get single file early. The rains came before the segment ended, so they halted for a red flag. It took about 20 minutes. They got the cars fired back up. They got to the end of the segment, and, everyone did their pit stops. However, there was some confusion under the caution flag about, whether or not, where drivers should be and whatnot. They finally got that sorted out, went back green, and we passed the halfway point. Menard has led basically every lap except for the first, I believe. I think it was Kyle Busch led the first lap. Menard then continued to lead, and then we got to a point where more rain came, and they throw the caution flag, and they're trying to ride around it out there, but then the rain gets a little heavier, so they display the red flag once again. Cars come down pit road. This time, though, it only takes 8 minutes. The cars get back onto the racetrack, but after that, the rain became heavier and closer than ever. There was this huge cell coming. Once they got there, that was pretty much the race. Seeing it on the radar. Everyone in the spotters were telling their drivers, hey, this will probably be the final restart. This will probably be the last run. So we probably just can't get up into a single file line at this point. This is probably the time where we have to go for broke and go for the win. So some drivers trying to shuffle each other out, whatever, which ends up with Menard still in the race lead, Jimmy Johnson in second, Kurt Busch in third, and Kyle Busch in fourth. That'll actually play big heading in. So we're under, I think it was under 20 to go, and Jimmy Johnson backs up through 1 and 2 because I was actually on RaceView listening to Jimmy Johnson at the point when this happened. Basically, his spotter and his crew chief actually came over the radio and said, hey, rain is 5 miles out, once it starts sprinkling, just make the move. Once there are sprinkles on your windshield, start to make the move, because this will be it. This will be it. Spotter was telling him, should I tell him when to make the move, whatever, and crew chief was like, Kevin Meandrin. I was like, it's going to be kind of hard, I don't know, yada. So then we got to, I think it was under 20 to go. Jimmy Johnson, I think, maybe saw some raindrops on his windshield, maybe knew that it was going to be time to go. Backs up through 1 and 2 to the front bumper of Kurt Busch. Off turn 2, it gets a good run, and then down the backstretch, he hooks the left down low, and then tries to come back up against the side draft. Menard maybe comes down a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell from these angles, but in the end they make contact. Menard then gets sideways, pushes Johnson down almost into the grass. Johnson saves his race car somehow, some way. Menard comes back into the field, crashes them, and all but 3 cars get damaged in the massive one in the clash at Daytona. Basically everyone was taken out except for Jimmy Johnson, Joey Logano, someone else, and Kurt Busch. Like there were like 4 cars running at the end without damage, and I think Alex Bowman got through to 5th. But a crazy wreck there. The yellow comes out. Jimmy Spiner's like, oh my God. And Jimmy then immediately comes to the radio as he coasts down to turn 1, 2 and says, it's pouring over here in turn 2. Later he comes over, it's pouring in turn 4. NASCAR red flags the race and soon after calls the race. And Jimmy Johnson gets his first win, in parentheses, quotation marks, because technically it's not really a win, it's a non-points race. But Jimmy Johnson wins for the first time since 2017. He's back in victory lane for the first time in 2017 as the race winner, with some controversy also tagged on as well. So basically, what this clash was I wasn't too shocked about it, honestly, because we've looked at clashes in the past, and honestly, I saw this great point made on Twitter. I forget who it was. It was one of the NASCAR media people. But they said, in a 75-lap exhibition race where the middle of the race pays out no points, no playoff points, nothing, it doesn't pay out anything. The only thing you're there for is to win, and to win at lap 75. What is the point of racing at lap 50 of a 75-lap event? What do the first 50 laps mean? What do the first, 60 laps mean? All that matters is that you're there at lap 75. So these drivers, right, they're going to run single file because, first of all, the cars are very, 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 very out of control with the type of package that they kind of have, where the ride height is you can just do whatever with the ride height, you go as low as you want. That will make the cars a lot faster, but also make them a lot looser in the rear end, so they're very prone to sucking up to each other and whatnot and getting loose and whatever. So that will happen. So they kind of just were riding out, and I don't blame the drivers. What's the point of racing on lap 3 of a 75-lap exhibition race when lap 3 doesn't pay out the win? Lap 75 does. If you wreck on lap number 3 going for the win, what's the point of doing that? What's the point of racing that hard early on? What's the point of racing on lap 50? You still have 25 laps to go. There's really no point in racing until the last 10 laps. And I think that's where a lot of people just kind of they don't really think about that, because in the clash, they're really not fighting for anything. It's a non-points race, and we've seen this time and time again in different types of leagues, whether it be, sports or motorsports. The NFL, whenever they hold their Pro Bowl. What's the Pro Bowl? It's a joke. You know why? Because those players are there for nothing. They're there to just have fun. That's basically what it is, to have fun and to not get hurt. You go to any NBA All-Star game, that's any All-Star game, any game or race where it just doesn't pay out, points or money or, a win or whatever, and doesn't do anything towards what you're fighting for, then what's the point? For these drivers in the clash, this wasn't going towards their championship for 2019. This is, just for another trophy at Daytona. There's no point of racing at lap 25 if, you're going to go 3 wide and wreck and, go head onto the wall or injure yourself, something along the lines of that. There's just no point of racing if, you're not up towards the front. And then it doesn't help that early on there were 5 or 6 Fords that were lined up at the front. Menard, Keselowski, Logano, Blaney, and Newman were all up there lined up towards the front. I mean, what's the point of making a move if the Fords are just going to stay committed to each other? You're not going to be able to get by them, because we saw this in Talladega. You get lined up, you get 5 or 6 cars lined up, you're not going to be able to pass them, because 5 and 6 cars lined up and there's only 14 more in the race. You're going to have to get all those drivers lined up with you to even have a shot. So that's basically what this has happened. Was the race good? No. Was it mediocre? No. Was it bad? Pretty much. It was pretty much a bad race, and it's one that no one will really remember. The only reason people will remember it is because of the last green flag lap and the crash that happened, taking out basically the whole field. So that's kind of my take on it, is that the clash, ever since they introduced this new Gen 6 car without back with the car tomorrow or whatever, the clash was fine. But with this new Gen 6 type car, it's very easy to get loose underneath the driver and get sucked around, whatever. So these drivers, they have normally, especially the last 3 years, dating back to like 2017, 2016, these drivers have played a lot more conservative in the clash than they have in previous years. And that's because these cars are more prone to getting spun around and whatnot. The handling's gone away, and it's just not working out. And, it is what it is. It will happen. Will this happen in, say, the duels or the Daytona 500? I do not think so. I think there will be more competitive racing in the 500 and in the duels, especially since there's stuff on the line. In the Daytona 500, you have the stages. There are playoff points awarded there. In the duels, you're fighting for a finishing spot further forward in the 500. Do I think the duels will be crazy all throughout? I do not think so. I think they will heat up later on in the race because of the fact that once it pays out, later on in the race. It doesn't pay out the last 7 years. He was looking to chase 8 here today and make it the 8th straight crash he has crashed out of. Instead, he takes it to victory lane by causing a massive crash. Now, the big storyline is about the controversy of this crash. Should Jimmy Johnson have been penalized? Was this over-aggressive driving? Yada, yada, yada. The thing for me is that I think it was a product of plate racing, and this is what plate racing is. They run so close together. This is going to happen when with plate racing, especially since the side draft is so big. Jimmy tried to go over and get the side draft off Menard. There's no question about that. Did he maybe, go a little too far? Possibly. Did the car just get sucked up into Menard? That's a possibility too. Did Menard come down a little bit and maybe they just met in the middle? That's also a possibility. In my opinion, you cannot place blame on anyone. If you had to place blame on someone, 51% Jimmy Johnson. Because honestly, it's just plate racing. That's going to happen, racing like they were, and, just going for the win. The rain was there. It started downpouring once the caution came out, so it was going to happen. The rain was coming. They were going to need to make the move, or else Menard was just going to win the race. Jimmy makes the move. The crash happens. Big controversy, just like the Daytona 500 from last season. In my opinion, I think that the move was fine. It was aggressive for sure. He was hungry to get to victory lane. It had been a long time. It was like he did at the Roval. He made his own little mistake. He spun out. He collected tricks in the process. That happened here at Daytona. He's hungry to get the win. He hits Menard. He gets too close to him. They make contact in the middle. Menard gets sent spinning. In my opinion, should the contact have been hard enough to where Menard spun? I don't think it was hard enough to make him spin. I don't know whether Menard wasn't able to save the car or what it was. Jimmy saved his car fine as he was heading towards the grass. Menard, I feel like he should be able to save the car. I don't know how hard he got hit. I don't know if it was just the package that they're using, whatever. I don't think it's the package's fault because we have seen stuff like this at Daytona and Talladega before. It is what it is. Also, I saw some people for some reason saying that Jimmy Johnson passed the wrecked race car below the double yellow line. Menard's wrecked race car down below the double yellow line, so he should be penalized and Kurt Busch should win. Just ignoring the fact that the rules say if you're avoiding a crash, you may go below the double yellow line. That's always been a thing. When drivers go below the double yellow line for a crash, you never see people saying that. So honestly, people saying that is pretty ridiculous and pretty stupid that they have just decided to see that out throughout this experience. Maybe because they don't like Jimmy Johnson, maybe because of the movie pulled. I don't know, but in my opinion, I think the move was justified. I don't think he definitely didn't mean to wreck Menard. It just happened. I think it was more of a meet in the middle sort of thing. I do feel like Menard came down a little bit, but to try and try to complete a block. But in the end, what happened happened. And in my honest opinion, I think the only reason this race was bad was because it was a non-points race, nothing on the line for these drivers except the trophy. So they're not going to go out there and just wreck their race cars, 3 laps into an event, and risk the possibility of getting injured too. I mean, these are over 200-mile-an-hour speeds down the straightaways, so it's not like they're going slow. If they crash, they're going to crash big, So, and they did crash big as we saw. But, there have been bad plate races, in the past. The 2000 Daytona 500, notorious for being a horrible race. The 2002 Pepsi 400. I just looked back on this because of the Steve Park, video that I did. The 2002 Pepsi 400. It had 9 caution flags, only 6 lead changes. So, I mean, there have been races at plate tracks in the past where, they have been bad. What the reason for that, I don't know. Is it because a team has found it out? Whatever it is. But There have been plate races, especially back in the days when people, we want to go back to the 2000 types of plate racing. There were days back then as well when the plate racing was bad, be it, DI domination or, whatever it was, I don't know. But to say that, I don't know, I don't want to really get into that stuff, but, maybe this is a preview of what we'll see with the 2019 package. I don't know. We still are yet to determine that, but coming up later this week, there are the duels on Thursday. The truck race will be Friday, Xfinity on Saturday, and Cup on Sunday. And it looks like the duels should be fine in terms of rain. Same with the Cup Series race and same with the Xfinity race. The only thing is going to be the truck race. It looks like it's supposed to rain a little bit that night, so we'll see how that goes. But for Jamie Johnson, a win in the Clash instead of a crash. So I thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys for the rest of Speed Weeks.